Today's topic is Grammarly. If you've got 5 minutes, I've got 5 tips to help you use it the best you possibly can. Everyone's been talking about artificial intelligence, AI, and the problems that it's causing writers now and the ones that they can see in the future. However, I think it's fair to say that AI is here to stay, so it would be best for us to find a way to use AI or find various ways to use it to our best advantage as writers. Some time ago, I did a video on AI and how it can be used to assist writers, and one of the ways that it can do that is by using AI tools like Grammarly, which is an artificial intelligence tool, whether you have recognized that or not. And even if you don't use this particular application yet, you probably will in the future, or you're going to use one like it. And I've been using Grammarly for a while, and I've come up with some tips and some ways of using it to its best advantage. Now, first of all, let's talk about what Grammarly is. It's a writing assistant that can help you with the correctness and clarity of your writing. It does not write for you. It's an editing tool. It picks up things like spelling errors, grammar errors, syntax errors, word choice possibilities, ways to improve the structure of your sentences. These are the kinds of things that this grammar checker will pick up, because it's really far more than a grammar checker despite its name. Grammarly is available as a web-based application, a browser extension, and a standalone desktop application as well. Grammarly is available as a free product that you can use and try, but it's quite limited in what it can do. I happen to be a pro user. I pay for my version. I pay an annual fee for this version. And I want you to understand that this is not an endorsement of this product in particular. It just happens to be a tool that I use. Many of the tips that I'm going to suggest to you now could be applied to any other brand of grammar checker that you use. As you write, Grammarly will automatically, when it's turned on, highlight and underline errors that it thinks are in your manuscript. And along the side of your document, it's going to provide you with suggestions about how to correct it. One thing you need to understand is Grammarly is not going to correct your writing as it goes along. You need not worry about that. It's going to make suggestions about how you can correct your writing. And that's important to understand when you think about the tips that I'm going to give you for how to use it. Tip number 1, keep it turned off while you're writing. Now, Grammarly says it will edit as you write. Please, as I mentioned above, do not let it do this. This is extremely distracting to let Grammarly do any kind of editing or to underline things as you move along with your writing. Trust me on this. I've tried it and it just doesn't work. So keep Grammarly turned off until you're ready to do a light editing. Maybe it's something that you do at the beginning of each session. You might reread what you've written the day before. That might be a time to run Grammarly on it for its first run through. But do not do it while you're writing. It's really going to interfere with your writing flow. Tip number 2, customize your settings. One of the biggest complaints I've heard from usually beginning writers when using Grammarly is that it's going to fundamentally change the style of their writing. That Grammarly will want to change words that they really don't want changed. Well, to begin with, you don't have to change anything just because Grammarly suggests it. However, there is a way for you to change your settings. For example, when I was writing primarily academic materials, my style was much more formal. And when I was writing textbooks, my style was very formal. But now I'm not writing those kinds of things anymore. I'm writing a more casual approach. So the settings on my Grammarly are set to that. It's always going to pick up some things that they think are far too informal, if you like. For example, maybe if one of your characters swears, it might suggest that that might offend your audience. Well, it might or it might not. Nevertheless, you can customize those settings so it's a little bit more contextually accurate when it picks up errors or makes suggestions for how you might improve your writing. Tip number 3, understand its suggestions. One of the big advantages of Grammarly, and increasingly the spell checkers and grammar checkers that are available with your word processing programs, is that they not only suggest how to improve your writing, but they tell you why you should, what the rule is, what they suggest you are breaking, what rule you're breaking. It will generally provide a rationale for you that may or may not be useful to you. For example, Grammarly might tell you that you have a sentence fragment, that you need to make it a complete sentence. Now that might just be an error that you've made, that you have neglected to make it a complete sentence, or you may have deliberately chosen to use a fragment for a particular effect that you wanted to have. One of the things that we all know about grammar and syntax is that you need to know the rules before you can break them. So this is one of those times where you can read those suggestions and find them very helpful for you. Tip number 4, understand that Grammarly does not understand context. Now, in spite of what I said earlier about setting your settings so it's more contextually appropriate, that's as far as it goes. It's those high-level contextualities that Grammarly knows about. It does not know about the particular context in which you are writing. Grammarly is not that smart. And interestingly, in the future, possibly they will be smarter, but they're not that smart right now, and they don't know the context of your writing. So Grammarly might make a suggestion for you, but it's probably not going to be as specific as you want. And sometimes you can get sort of angry at it and say, that's not what I'm talking about at all. That's a bit silly, though, because it really doesn't understand what you're saying. Tip number 5, be aware that it misses things. Writers often have these kinds of tools and expect them to be foolproof and pick up every kind of error that's in their work. It will not do that. For example, Grammarly doesn't understand single letters. A is a word, right? On its own, it is a word, but O is not, and it consistently will not pick up that error. So if you have one letter and you've neglected to put the O after a T when you meant to, it may or may not pick that up. In the context that it understands, it might pick it up, but otherwise it's not going to. One of the other things that you'll notice is if you run it more than once on the same text, it's going to pick up different things and make different suggestions. You may see that as a downfall of the program. I happen to see it as a positive thing. I run Grammarly every time I do another draft, and it will pick up new things. It will pick up errors that I've put in when I've done editing, for starters, but it will also make suggestions on things that it's already corrected, and it may pick up things that it missed before. So I highly recommend that you run it a few times, at least on every draft. The bottom line is that Grammarly is a very good supplementary editing tool, but it does not take the place of professional editing. Happy writing.
Subscribe to Write, Fix, Repeat, and maybe I can help you improve your writing knowledge and skills, 5 tips at a time.